All right, it is 5:30 on April 14th, 2022, and I'd like to call to order the West Fargo Library Board. I'll first do attendance. Tony?
Aye.
Jody? And Alana?
Here.
And I'm here. Welcome. We need an approval of the order of the agenda.
I'll make a motion for approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The order of the agenda passes, so we'll move on to our consent agenda. We have approval of the minutes from March and approval of financial reports, and they're both linked in your files. Are there any questions on either of those items?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, consent agenda passes. All right, we will move on to our regular agenda. The first one is reviewing and recommending candidates for the Library Board of Directors. So we do have 2 seats open? Is that correct? I forget.
Our seats come up. My seat comes up.
Okay.
I am interested in renewing my seat if the board would consider it.
Okay. Yeah, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had 7 plus then, and if there's any questions for Alana, I know she had emailed us that she couldn't get the submission to work.
Yes, and I wasn't quite sure if that was something that current board members needed to do either, if we needed to submit or if it was a special consideration. There's been multiple things on that, but
Okay.
it'll be the board's discretion.
And her email was before the due date. I'm fine using that email as her
Yes.
submission.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I would definitely like to support Alana staying on the board. I think she does an amazing job.
Yep, I would agree. We do have 8 candidates, and so then I was also sent, I just want to make sure we do it correctly. Here's the process. So I did get the top 3 from the library. They looked at them. And so then we would, oh, yes.
I was just gonna say, I didn't know you also wanted to renew, so in that case, staff would also support your renewal as well. So if you want that info in your consideration as well.
Okay, thank you. So tonight so I have the top 3 or 4 from the library. And then we would, as a board, choose our top 3, but then we send our top 3 choices. So we have that. And then we would deliberate on the top 3 that the board recommended to send to the May board meeting. After deliberation at the April meeting, 2 are chosen from the recommendation at a May commission meeting.
So today we are looking for 2 names to propose to the
The city commission, so.
The city commission,
You're
and then they
deliberating your
approve
top candidates today to select 2, which then goes to the city commission, and I can help getting that on their consent agenda as well, so.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
So we did have 8. Do you want me to kind of go through each one?
I think we all
You all
have
received
received the
them?
information.
And so then from the library board, let's see. I have their list.
The
Why,
library staff.
Sorry, the library staff. So I would probably put Alana on the top. And then they had Larry Schwartz, Jessica Rice, and Alex Waters were their top candidates. And as I read their submissions, it was around, those that have had experience with the libraries, even though some may be academic library versus public library. So are there other thoughts on which 2 we would send forward to the commission?
Do we each want to discuss maybe the candidates we thought?
Sure,
Right.
yeah,
Wanna
absolutely.
start, Tony?
I was going to ask, how many are we replacing and when? Or,
So there are 2 seats that are open, my seat
Jody,
and
can you move
Alana.
closer to the
Okay.
microphone?
Oh, sorry. There are 2 seats that are open, my seat and Alana's seat.
Okay.
And so we would supply 2 suggestions to the May commission,
okay,
city commission, and then they would join the board in July, correct? So July would be their first meeting.
yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Just to remind myself kind of
Sure.
what's going on. Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
So do you want to start? Do you want to suggest candidates from our list that you thought might be a good addition to the board?
Well, working off the list that was suggested, I believe by the library staff in the email.
Anything from all
Oh.
the candidates, the
Okay.
list that the library staff supplied it, just what were your thoughts in general?
Okay. I'd support the first 2 of the 3 that were on that list. And I was, in looking at the materials provided, I wasn't, I guess, inclined to choose anyone else necessarily. So I guess I don't have any further issues to bring up.
Okay.
Okay. Jody, did you have any comments about the candidates?
Yeah, so I definitely want to support Alana, and then I also would be in support of Larry. Larry was a good, I enjoyed working with him on the board before. He always had really
Okay.
good contributions to our discussions, was an active member of the board. I also thought that the applicant Annie Daforn, I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name, was an interesting applicant. And the reason why I thought she was an interesting applicant is because of her ability she's a CPA. She has a lot of financial background, and I feel like our board would benefit from that. I think she would, I feel like our board spends a lot of time working on our budget, and I feel like she could be our budget subcommittee. We've talked about having a
Yeah.
budget subcommittee. I feel like she would be a really helpful addition in that way. She could really have a lot of good contribution working on our budgets. I also really appreciated her discussion, like growing up in North Dakota, using libraries, how she appreciated libraries and how they contributed to the community. She also had done her homework. She had read our strategic plan, and she mentioned that she was a fan of the Little Red Reading Bus, and she hoped that we kept that. So she seemed like a really serious applicant and that she would appreciate being on the board. So I just wanted to mention that I would be in support of that applicant as well.
And you remind me, yes, I did note that
Did you remember?
somebody who had that kind of background was very interesting.
So I too would support Alana back on the board. And from all of them, I appreciated Jessica Rice's application just with her education background. And that's just I would say a bias of mine, that I appreciate that background. I don't know Larry, so I don't know from working, but having previous board experience is great too. So either of those and Alana would be probably my choices. Do you have any feelings, Alana?
I do not feel that I should have
Okay.
feelings. I support anybody, and if the board is so inclined, I'm happy to give up my seat to any of the applicants. I think we received more applications than we have since I've been on the board in the last 3 years, and that's amazing. You know, the staff is doing a good job of getting the information and the need out there, and the community is responding, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity that people are willing to take advantage of.
Can we ask specifically for your input? If we were discussing Jessica, Larry, or Annie, would you have one way or the other?
So that's hard to answer because as I have experience with Larry, you know, so I'm definitely inclined to work with Larry again. I thought he had really good insight, and I think he really puts a lot of thought into what he does. So it's hard for me to weigh him against Jessica or Annie. I'm just reviewing their applications right now. I think the CPA experience would be phenomenal as we move forward. Yeah, it's a tough tough choice between, I would think that Annie has the CPA background? I think that would be a stronger need right now between Annie and Jessica, but I don't know between Annie and Larry who I would help advise.
And I was surprised by the starting down here, so I didn't wind up here. And then I would also support your continuation if that factors into this. So just to state that.
Thank you.
Sorry, it kind of passed over my head there.
Do you have any opinions between if we looked at Annie or Larry? So it sounds like we're unanimous in moving Alana's name forward, and then we would move a second name forward too. Do you have any inkling between Annie and Larry?
I don't know either one of them. I thought that Larry sounded like he'd been around, and and if I take what I've heard as a kind of a endorsement, I'm all for that. Yes.
So I can't make a motion to move my own name forward. Never mind.
Okay, let's do them individually then.
Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion that for one of our open board seats, we support Alana for that opening.
I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second to move Alana Rarick forward as one of our library board candidates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain. I just want
Thank
that on
you.
the record.
Okay, and we have one abstain, and the motion passes. So we will move Alana's name forward. So now we move on to the second candidate. Do we have any motions to move a second candidate forward?
I move to move Larry Schwartz's name forward.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move Larry Schwartz's name forward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? All right, Alana and Larry's name will move forward. Thank you. Let me get back to the agenda. Sorry. All right, next we have our, analysis of public service hours.
I don't have a lot to say. I just wanted to provide this report to you. I know we had talked about a potential reduction of hours due to staffing levels and wondering what foot traffic was within the library and kind of knowing that information. So I did some super fun analysis of how many people we've gotten into our doors through January through March. So this isn't looking year over year. In your library board report, you'll see some of that year-to-year comparison, but really just looking at the last 3 months of foot traffic that we've received. Lots of attendance. We're getting closer to our pre-pandemic numbers, which is very exciting and amazing. It's great to see all those people in our door, and there's not a clear day or time other than the fact that our evening hours are in reduction. Sorry, I feel like I have an echo on here. Is that true? Oh, you
If
feel
you
okay? Okay, it's just me.
speak directly into it, perhaps.
Okay, I couldn't tell. I feel like I'm getting an echo, but maybe not. All right. So really looking at the month and the day of the week, we're seeing a lot more attendance now on those Wednesdays, especially because of our story time for whole families. We are seeing incredible attendance for those, and that's really a testament to Sarah Davis, our children's services librarian, and the crowd that she's getting, and it's a lot of word of mouth spread that's getting those people in our doors. As we look at by day and by hour, you can tell that story time hour sticks out on Wednesdays. We also see a trend that our evening hours are a lot slower for our foot traffic. And I know we had talked a little bit about that. If we were to close earlier, what would that look like? Or if we were to open earlier, what would that look like? So I don't have a ton of recommendations at this point, just really providing you guys any information that you would like to know about that. And then looking at total visits by day, January through March. And so we're seeing, again, a lot of attendance in on our Wednesdays and our weekdays. Our Sundays are a lot lower hours, so that's why that number looks a bit smaller. We're only open 4 hours on Sundays. And then I also provided all the super fun data for you to compare and all of that good stuff. So in looking at all this information, sort of what I talked with the manager group is that there's not really a strong day or time that says we could act this day, because people are coming in our doors, and that's great and awesome, and we love that. And I do think now that we have that evening supervisor position that's in process for hiring that role, I think we'll be in a lot better place where our management team and staff aren't kind of under that stress or that strain. So I don't necessarily have a recommendation for cutting a day, cutting an hour. I think this should be a part of a future conversation when we have with our new library director about adjusting our open hours to accommodate for when people are using our building. So we have had patron comments and questions about having us open at 9 a.m. because some of the other local libraries in our area open at 9 a.m. Not all of them, but some of them do. And how we have a very morning community in West Fargo, and they're very active in the morning. So accommodating our open hours to adjust for that activity from the public may be something we want to talk about in the future, but not necessarily anything for you guys to really have action on today unless you guys want to take any. So I'll let you guys, if you have any questions for me, I'll pause.
Are there any questions or comments?
No problem. My pleasure.
I just have a question because the breakdown where you have it by hour and by day, when was that study done? What time frame? Like, was it a week or a few weeks or?
That whole window is January 1st through March 31st. So it's all aggregate, adding on top of each other, if that makes sense. So it's the total visits on Wednesday at 10 a.m. for the last 3 months. So that's why it looks super, super high. They've had 450 people-ish in at that time for those 3 months.
And I just want to, I'm sorry, were you done?
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Your part-time staff mostly work, like if you have a part-time staff person, they mostly work evenings, right? No, you have
No, we
part-time
have
staff that work all the time. Okay.
Yep, we do. So how the schedule is set right now is that we have 1 to 2 library assistants on at any time. So we have an AM, afternoon, and evening type shift. Some of those shifts kind of scale morning to afternoon. And then we always have a manager in the building, if not an on-duty supervisor, if possible. It kind of depends. I will say our schedule is very historically based on traffic and when we had different programs at different times. So I would say our staffing levels that we have set right now don't necessarily reflect our busiest times. And I think that was more of a habit of how, if we were to have a vacancy, what we would do is repost that position with the same exact hours and shifts that person had filled before, not necessarily looking at when are our busiest times or having a set schedule where we have part-time staff work 15-ish hours a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 4-hour shifts and things like that. So the shift lengths and frequency of them is maybe not totally reflecting where it should be. That I think will be probably also a future conversation when we look at staffing levels for our circulation desk.
I just want to be really cognizant of that. If there's any adjustment in hours, like if you close 2 evenings a week, that wouldn't negatively impact a couple staff members.
would.
Like if all their hours or half their hours would go away, right? So I just want to keep that in mind.
It would, and in that case, all of our evening staff, I will say that kind of group of people, they do usually work 5 to 9 p.m., 2 to 3 evenings a week, and then every other weekend on a varying basis of whether they work Saturday and Sunday or just Saturday or Sunday, depending on their availability. So if we were to close earlier, that would really only affect that group of staff and wouldn't necessarily affect our daytime staff in that way. So if we could, and we're thinking about open hours, can also say if we were to close an hour earlier, that doesn't mean staff necessarily have to leave at that 8 o'clock time. They could potentially stay until 9 p.m. and that could help us with a little bit of that communication and training time where they would have a dedicated hour to work on some professional development or policy changes and those kind of training communications as well.
Thank you for that information. It was,
No problem.
yeah, very informative. So next we'll move on to the library report.
Oh gosh. I messed up and now I gotta get back to where I was. Hold on. You get a lot of fun pictures from me this evening because we've had a lot of social media presence in the last couple weeks here. So I didn't introduce myself when I first came up here, but I'm Kirsten Hennigan, our Adult Services Manager. In this library update, I'm going to span a lot of things because I have a few questions and as well as just updates of general library operations. So I'll give you a Friends of the Library updates. We'll talk a little bit about staffing and the things that we have going on in that front, a little bit about our National Library Week, a future policy consideration, something to start thinking about now, and then 2 departmental updates around technical services and programming. Friends of the Library update. I'm very excited to say that they have a full officer team. They had also gone through a little bit of a leadership transition when the library did as well, so they now have a full officer team, and I'm very excited for them. So we have a new president, Mari Krajewski. She was serving as vice president before. Added a vice president of Abby Larson. Kaylin Shkovlias, sorry Kaylin if I said your name wrong, is now moving into the secretary position, and we've added Danelle Richmond as treasurer. Both Abby and Danelle have been volunteers in the past, and so it's exciting to have them seek further leadership responsibilities within their organization. Their next meeting is June 2nd, so if you want to come hang out with them, that's when it will be. Staffing update, like I was talking about earlier, the evening circulation supervisor position closed last Friday. We are planning to do interviews next week. We had a good, healthy group of applicants come into that position, so a few internal candidates, external candidates, a good mix, so very exciting to see that sort of moving forward. The teen intern position will close at the end of the month on April 22nd. Also very exciting, a ton of applicants are applying for that position, so it's exciting to see the youth excited as well about the library. Second staffing update is around the Public Library Association Conference. Myself, Lauren Nephew, our Youth Services Manager, and Sarah Davis, our Children's Services Librarian, attended that conference in Portland at the end of March. It was awesome, in a very short way to say that. It was probably one of the best conferences I've ever attended, professional development-wise. It was a good mix of operational library sessions, so it was industry leaders within public libraries as well as the publishing and book industry. Got to meet a lot of our vendors that we currently use within the library, as well as look and explore at other opportunities like new bookmobiles and vending machines and all kinds of really cool kiosks and things around the industry of public libraries. There was a lot of opportunities to learn about policy and inclusion around DEI and how the library can look at those policies and look at how we operate to be better inclusive to our communities, as well as a ton of exciting adult and youth outreach services and program ideas. It was probably one of the most actionable conferences I've gone to. I think oftentimes we go to conferences and it's, in theory, we could do all of these things, but not some of those tactical elements of how do you make this happen to my size of library or within my region or within things that would be applicable to our climate as well, and thinking about those things. So that opportunity is only possible because of your guys' investment into our professional development line within our budget and making sure that that opportunity is available to staff. So thank you for that opportunity. Now the fun stuff. National Library Week was last week, and I'm sure you guys were following along on our Facebook and Instagram accounts. Staff had a ton of fun this year. We had theme days that we dressed up for, and so here's a few of those. In the top right, we have our literary character day, so a few of us dressed up as literary characters. On the left, we have Decades Day, but make it librarian, and so what would a librarian dress like in different decades? And then, of course, you can't get away with a cozy up and read. Everybody wore their comfy clothes and slippers and had the best, most comfiest day at the library, I would say. So, next. We also have a few things going on in the library right now is our Love Your Library campaign. We started it last week when we've already gotten several submissions where people can draw a picture, write us a message, include why they love the library, and those things will kind of pop up later throughout the year of why people love West Fargo Public Library. Our Meet the Team campaign has also gotten a lot of traction as well in contextualizing what is it that you do every day when you're at the library? No, I don't sit at my desk and read books, but I do a lot of other really fun things too, but sharing what each of our positions and how we contribute to the larger organization. And not last but not least, our Summer Boost media announcement. So people can now register for Summer Boost on Beanstack. In the future, we'll have our paper registration too for those that want to be offline readers. And we also announced our stops for the Little Red Reading Bus route this summer. There will be more on summer at next month's board meeting. Lauren will come and share a ton of the opportunities and ways that we are kind of changing and switching things from last year's Summer Boost program and the Little Red Reading route. Okay, future policy consideration for you guys. In this process of, I've been working with our PM supervisor, or AM supervisor of our circulation team, making a better patron services manual, which has brought me to quite a few of our policies along the way and and how we administer those policies through procedures. So in this process, we've identified a few concerns around our borrowing and privileges policy as well as our reciprocity policy, which, as you can tell, haven't been touched in a little while. With those policies, the main concerns that we have are really around who receives full access to WFPL services. And it's incredible and a testament to that how we have that written now is to any resident of West Fargo, anybody within the West Fargo School District, as well as anybody who has a reciprocity card, which is awesome, and we really love that access. But when it comes back to a conversation around how is our library funded, we are funded by those West Fargo residents. So the main concerns that we have as a library manager team is specifically around adult residents within our school district. We certainly don't want to walk back on all of the great conversations we've had with our school district and engaging those students with our services. But looking at how we have that funded, so there's a little bit of a language discrepancy there that we want to talk about, as well as within our reciprocity agreement and the fee associated with our outreach out-of-area card. So right now we have no formal agreement with the school district that kind of compensates or offsets the expenses that we see and incur with having that larger access. I think in the past it was a kind of good faith comment with that we would serve the entire West Fargo school district, which made a lot of sense before our district kind of exploded and has grown, and it's been really great to see that growth. But thinking about how that relates to the public library and the services we provided kind of is been set aside and wanted to bring that kind of forward for you guys to think about and talk about. So there's a few pathways forward that we could go with that. We could restrict that card access to having somebody with a West Fargo address would then get full access, or we could then also instead approach the West Fargo School District and say, hey, here's what this cost incurs to the library by providing that larger service. Would you help us pay for that? Because at the end of the day, we're about access, right? We want people to use our services and be encouraged to use the library. And we want to continue to grow that relationship with the district, but we just maybe need to have that conversation and what that looks like in the future. As for the reciprocity agreement, it's a small language around the words of patron versus resident. And within the other two parties of our reciprocity agreement, they use resident, where we use patron. And the sort of challenge with that is anybody who is a Fargo Public patron or a Lake Agassiz Regional Library patron could get our full access card without any restrictions. I will say the other two parties do restrict those cards. We haven't been. In that case, right now, so for example, a Detroit Lakes patron could come to West Fargo Public Library and get our card for free, where that isn't necessarily the case with our other two parties, a part of that reciprocity agreement, where they do restrict it to being a Fargo, West Fargo, or Moorhead address. Something to think about. As for the out-of-area fee, so those that don't fall within the school district are true residency of West Fargo or that reciprocity card, they are charged an out-of-area fee, which is currently $5. Great, very accessible. However, when we think about how much our West Fargo residents are paying for that access, it's $115 based on the property taxes that go towards funding the library. So, for example, we have a lot more of those recently because we are the only library open on Sundays at this point in time, so we're getting a lot more of those out-of-area patrons for $5, whereas our residents are paying $115 for those services. Do I think the fee needs to be $115? That's not my decision. But it's something to think about when it comes to where that access and our funding is coming for the services we provide, whether that's our building, our staff time, the online e-resource databases that we have, as well as our collection and the money that we invest into that resource for the community. So I don't have anything for you to act on today, but wanted to provide you guys that context of something we're going to be probably thinking about once our director is here and we're looking at some of those policies, because I will say the revision date on these policies is pretty consistent on some of the other policies we have for the library. And a North Dakota State Library standard is to look at those every 3 years. So wanting to bring some of those forth before the library in order to have you guys take a look at them. Questions about that before I move on?
Has there, not about the policies specifically, but has there been a consistent rotation in the past of updating policies? If we're supposed to do it every 3 years, we should do certain one, has there been?
In my time, so I started in 2020, no. Prior to that, though, in speaking with Lauren Nephew, who's been here for 7 years, there was a policy subcommittee within the library. I'm not really sure why the decision was to go away from that subcommittee, but there was that decision. So in the future, I do think a subcommittee within the library, we have multiple perspectives from across the services and teams would be beneficial to bring that back again. And then those recommendations would come before you guys from our library director in the future.
It does surprise me that these did not come to us, because there was a lot of policy revision related to access. Like, we dropped fees. We increased the number of items people could take out. I mean, those are just a few examples. So it seems like this might have fallen into that batch for us to look at, but it doesn't seem so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. On to some departmental updates. This is silly, but it's fun for us. So our technical services team got a fun new gadget that helps us better maintain our books when they start to lose their binding and that glue that makes them stick and be great and last a long time. So I don't remember what this machine is actually. It's like some technical weird term, but it's a binding machine is the main gist here, is that you stick a glue stick in that binding of the book, you stick it in the machine, it warms it up, it makes it happy, and it restores that binding so we can continue to circulate that item and allows us to reduce the number that we're replacing. So it's a little bit more sustainable for that department versus that being an item that we chuck out and then replace and buy a new one for. So a fun little fact from our technical services crew. On to programming. For adult programs, our book clubs are rocking and rolling. We've gotten an influx of attendance on all of them, so seeing some growth in a few of those areas. And a future conversation that we're having with Ferguson Books and Thunder Coffee is another off-site book club focused around true crime books. So that'll be coming down the pike here a little while. But technology tutoring is kind of getting back to that consistency that we had before the holidays and before the really terrible winter times, disregarding the snow that's currently outside. Our genealogy assistance is still moving forward. Our English conversation circles are not necessarily getting the traction that I would like to see them get, but it is a new service and we're growing it. I have seen a lot of community support from other organizations around this program, although we haven't seen maybe the exact numbers that we would want to see from community members and patrons, but a lot of organizations that have similar causes and focuses within their organizations are really excited that this is even an option, because it's not really in any other provider within the community, Fargo, Moorhead, or West Fargo. We did some standalone programs as well. My DNA results were in. What do they mean with Suze Bates? We did a Libby 101 class, just covering the basics, since that is transitioning away from the Overdrive app. I'll be attending the senior extravaganza next week with the WFACP, as well as we'll have a Introduction to Ancestry Library Edition coming up, and we're starting to kick off our gardening meetup. So that's a little bit revised version of what we did last summer with Summer Boost for adults. Instead of independent just classes, it kind of turned into more of a knowledge exchange with those attendees. And so we're gonna kind of lean into that a little bit more, where there'll be themes each month, but it'll be a monthly meetup for folks to come in and talk about gardening, what works, what isn't working, as well as some seasonal components to that as well. So the first one will be around preparing their garden for the summer. On the youth side of things, like I said earlier, story times are strong and consistent. That is really a testament to the youth services team. They've continued their outreach story times, also had a teen art event. The collaboration with the school district around book studies is continuing. They did have one group meetup last month, and then we'll be continuing that in the future as well. They have jumped on the wagon for the Red River Valley Kids Read, which is basically a kids version of our One Book, One Community program. We'll be having an author talk at the library with Elizabeth Raum on around the storm warning book, which is around the 97 flood. So it's a YA read, and we have free copies if you want one in the library. We will also be doing some pop-up libraries with the Little Red Reading Bus at the Spring Market in West Fargo, as well as a pop-up at the new Horace Park once they get rolling and have that announced. Second grade library tours are coming back. So especially with the pandemic affecting our youngest readers, we haven't had those regular tours like we had in the past. So we will be having, I think it's 50 groups of kindergartners that are going to be coming through the library in the next month or so. So it'll be a lot of little bodies getting to know what the library has to offer for them. Some things that are library-wide, we are returning our mini seed library. So if you're familiar, we did this last year as a collection with a library assistant staff that wanted to be a part of their display. We're doing that again, and we're having people that are excited about growing things in their own backyards. So we have seeds available through until we don't have the seeds available. So we still have quite a few for folks to come pick up. There's flowers, vegetables, fruits, all of those good things that grow in our area. This bottom picture here is of the Week of Young Child Art exhibit. So we have kids art up in the library. So if you want to come see some youth art pieces, come take a look at the activity hallway. On the horizon, like I said earlier, we'll be talking a little bit more about Summer Boost at next board meeting, as well as the Little Red Reading Bus route, plus the bonus stops we plan to do on weekends and things like that, as well as our Summer Boost kickoff party, because we're bringing it back. We have avoided that for the last few years, but we're going to be doing a big kickoff party again this year. And that is all I have for you.
Thank you so much. Such great offerings that we have coming up. Any comments or questions? Okay. Did you have anything else to share?
Nope.
No? Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have any other business?
I'd like to bring up something. So as we know, the city of West Fargo is working on a new plan for capital improvement plan. And if you've had a chance to look at it, the library is not included at all on that plan. However, a new fire hall, which I knew was part of it, is, and if you look in 2025, they are proposing a new city hall facility, which differs from conversations that I thought we had been a part of. They're discussing it, it looks like on April 26th. There's 2 meetings. I am unavailable to go, but I do think that the library needs to be present and be vocal and let them know that we are also looking to grow. The plan can be found on the engineering website of the city of West Fargo.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that the detail of it.
Yeah, you have to click into it. It's a slideshow, so it's very easy
Okay.
to read. But well, I'll send you what I looked at, and then and maybe you'll read it differently than I did. That could very well happen. But I looked at both the link for the capital improvement plan. There's 2 of them, one from March 10th and one from March 22nd, and they both show the same information. So I'll send you the link to the whole page. And
Okay, thanks. I'd like to, be sure we're looking at the same thing for a second thing, Very good.
So I'm
You have to
sorry,
talk
my
into your mic.
isn't, sorry, they can't hear you. So you said the 26th, Alana?
that's how I read it. I'm just going to quick send it out since you all have computers in front of you, so maybe you can
Okay.
pull it up right now.
I was wondering if there was a chance in between now and then for, if Mandy would be able to get a comment from the What role does the city commission have in creating that plan?
Well, they approve it. It doesn't mean that all the dollars will be spent necessarily that way, but it's their long-term spending plan for, well, 5-year.
But since we
spend. Is
had a
that how
joint
you
meeting with
understand
them
it?
to discuss building a building, I was wondering if we could get a comment from the city commission
Oh.
about why the library wasn't included in that plan.
My understanding is that because the library board is the one who determines how the library spends its dollars, the city is able to say, well, the library board hasn't made a decision, is my understanding. And it's just kind of a which comes first, the chicken or the egg? We've made it clear that we want to do that, but I don't know that the commission has. We've only had one meeting with them. We, of course, can't build a new building without the commission agreeing to us creating a special fund. But now they're making a plan for several years moving forward that hampers us. Doesn't mean we can't do it, but it does, kind of tamp us down a bit, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it sounds like if we're not included in the discussion about it, as in we don't know, something's been put forward.
Well, this is a commission meeting, and so this is a public input meeting, so we can enter as, not necessarily as library board members, but just as city.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sounds like something we shouldn't have to do it that way.
Right.
But as you point out, there are strange structural things that make it possible for us not to be included.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question would be, what else do we have to do?
I asked that question at that joint meeting, like, what else do you need from us? And the answer was, keep looking for ideas. We had a blueprint, like, we had plans. I don't know, like, I guess I don't understand then.
I've sent the link.
Okay.
Okay.
If you all have
Oh.
access to your email.
Okay.
So it's just a plan. But again, we need to make sure that we are heard. And so when you click on the link, if you have access to it, the one that I am specifically looking at, if you scroll down under the capital improvement plans, the one that was presented on March 22nd was the second one that was presented.
Okay.
And then it's just a slideshow. So if you scroll down to 2025 is the year, so it looks like it's page 11. You'll see that in the graph on the right, the third or fourth down, depending
Which
on
page number?
11.
page 11.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
That they are planning for a new city hall facility. I did scan these really quickly. If you go back up, I don't see anything for a library.
Okay. Hmm.
I know that there was a verbal comment made at the meeting, one of the meetings, I'm not sure which, I haven't watched them in detail, regarding the library, but it clearly didn't make the cut.
Well, there's no even mention that it didn't make the cut.
Is anybody available to attend the meeting? I believe there's 2 of them. I can't quite find the times of them right now. They've been advertising, oh wait, here, it's, there will be one at noon and one at 6:30 on April 26th. It's advertised on their Facebook page, the City of West Fargo government Facebook page.
Okay.
What's the, it's a commission meeting?
It's a town hall.
Oh,
It's the Facebook, so I'm looking at one from April 6th, the Facebook post, and it reads, from the City of West Fargo government, the City of West Fargo will host 2 town hall forums on the city's capital improvement plan Tuesday, April 26th. They will be held at noon and 6:30 at West Fargo City Hall, and then it gives an address. During the events, a panel of city officials will provide a short presentation, and then attendees can interact with panelists during a moderated question and answer session. The meeting will be recorded and available on the YouTube channel. And then there's a link for more details.
Yeah, find that.
I will do my best to try to attend the evening session.
Yeah, I will too.
I will send you the link with the more details.
Okay.
It'll be a reply to the last email I sent you, just so it's all included in the same.
Yeah, that would be better to have the link in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing this up, Alana. Are there any other business items?
One more.
Oh, yep.
I should have said this in my library update, but I forgot. We will be meeting with Jim and Tina tomorrow as the library service managers to talk about the 2023 budget. And we have a pretty strong draft at this moment in time. And after that meeting, we will be talking, and I will send an email to all of you, or who, if you want to continue with we talked a little bit about the budget committee, if you wanted just a couple of you to be sort of a part of that conversation. But I was going to extend it to all of you to come and just talk through what we, as library service managers, have discussed as what we would need. There's no staffing changes, but a few other of those line items that relate to our different departments and looking at past year trends and spending and things like that. So that we're moving forward on because the timeline for that is rapidly approaching. So we will be bringing, once we have that meeting with Jim and Tina, we kind of have to turn around and give them that draft budget immediately, so that they can do their other budget magic of looking at salaries as well as our technology line item for that to go before all of you in the May meeting. So that May meeting will be a little bit more beefy and talking through that budget for the future years. So we're moving on that. I just wanted to let you guys know that there's progress being made. I'll pause now. Do you want to all attend that meeting after Jim and Tina meet with us, or is there just a few of you that would like to meet with the?
If we all meet, it is a public meeting.
True.
You can have up to 2 board members.
Perfect. Thank you. That's good context I forgot about. So I'll let you decide. Who?
So the question is not for tomorrow's meeting, but for a future meeting, for a budget committee, basically, is what
Yes.
you're looking for.
Correct.
And that meeting would take place before the May meeting,
Correct.
between tomorrow and the May meeting, okay. I have experience with that from last year, and I'm happy to do that again, but if you all want to do it, you are welcome. The last time we did it, it was our commission representative, Mandy, was with. I don't know what her schedule is like. I believe she travels a lot, so I'm not sure if we want to include her or somebody else. But I'm willing to be on that committee.
Okay. Does anyone else have interest?
I actually thought we'd already discussed this. I thought that you were going to be that person. So I'm.
But we can have another person.
Right. Yeah.
And it is I will say, that it's a really good way to understand how dollars are spent in the library and in the city and how it fits together. And I feel like it's a good way to develop a relationship with the city staff as well. So does anybody?
I mean, I can, but if Mandy should be as a commission liaison, I don't know.
I don't know if she has to be or if she can be, but we could always ask her if she is able to, and if she's not, maybe then you would
Yeah,
be
that'd be fine.
second choice.
Yep.
I will send it to all 3 of you and let
Tony, is this something, I mean, if you are really interested in doing this, I would also be happy to let somebody else do it.
I can pass this time because that's tomorrow.
No, it's
No.
not, it'll be after tomorrow's meeting, but before our May board meeting.
Oh, okay. I can pass on it, but like it sounds like something should get involved in eventually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you
Yeah.
get-
Is there anything you guys want me to make sure we address with Jim and Tina tomorrow? That's a
hard
very
without
open and
seeing
nebulous
any-
question.
The new building?
I could passively bring that up.
Is there anything that you need from us regarding that meeting?
No, the questions that we have remaining are really city cost related. The rest of the budget is honestly pretty straightforward when it comes to pretty much everything else. It's around those salaries and things like that that I have a few questions on. I want to make sure my assumption is right, but we wanted to keep the deputy director salary within the salaries line of the budget, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, correct. I knew we wanted to keep the FTE, and I just want to make sure that
Yes,
Yeah.
we do
Okay.
not want to take that off of the line item.
correct. All right, got it.
We will never get it back.
Yes, I wanted to make sure I had that correct from the last motion you guys had in the special meeting. Okay, that was my only
Okay.
question, and just want to make sure you guys are aware that
Perfect.
things are moving on that process.
Great, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other business items?
I move to adjourn.
Need a second? I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.